Hello, Northern Virginia. This is Nova Weekend Warriors, focused on those runners, cyclists, athletes, outdoor enthusiasts, and fans of fitness in the Northern Virginia area. I'm Meg Donnelly, a licensed massage therapist in Herndon, Virginia, focused on those weekend warriors. As with every episode of Nova Weekend Warriors, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as advice, medical or otherwise. The views of guests in each episode are solely their own and not necessarily the views of Nova Weekend Warriors podcast or of Meg Donnelly in her capacity as a licensed massage therapist. Now, today I am very excited because we have a guest on that is really doing something very different than we've seen in the past in terms of working with a very specific group. Alec, my guest today, is a personal trainer with Rock Steady Boxing Nova. He has a Bachelor of Science from James Madison University, and he is an NSCA certified trainer. Alec, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So Alec, I really want to get started and really go into depth in terms of talking about Rock Steady Boxing, which combines boxing for people with Parkinson. Before we do, I want to talk a little bit about your background and training and kind of what led you up to that. So one of the first things that impressed me when I met you was that you're an NCSA certified trainer, which is a lot different because there's so many different ways that people can call themselves personal trainers. So can you tell me a little bit about that and a little bit about your time at James Madison?
Yeah, so the National Strength and Conditioning Association, I would say is one of the harder personal training tests out there. I'll put it kind of up there with the NASM, National Association of Sports Medicine. The NSCA is kind of geared more towards the athletes, and so you can kind of graduate from the personal trainer, become a CSCS, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. So a lot of college coaches and conditioning coaches are certified in the CSCS, and that does require a bachelor's degree. So it's kind of like the angle I initially started at. I knew that's kind of mostly the sort of fitness and exercise routines that I knew because that's what I did. And then I graduated from James Madison, and then the goal was to go to physical therapy school. So I applied to all these schools, and I'm not good at standardized tests, probably like most people. So that kind of is what separated me. So I got waitlisted everywhere and then end up getting denied everywhere. So it was I'm very impatient. So it was just, what do I do now? So me and a friend actually started a personal training company, in-home training that kind of caters more towards, working people, baby boomers, senior citizens. So that's kind of how I started developing a niche right there. And then my aunt owns a gym in New York, and she does the Rock Steady Boxing program there. And then so she kind of introduced that to me, said they're going to be a perfect fit. And then I helped out with some classes, and I thought it was really, really awesome. So I immediately signed up to get my certification in that. And then they fly you out to Indianapolis, and you do a 3-day course, and you come back and you can bring it back to wherever you're from.
Right. And so I think there's a couple of important things that you noted here. And the first thing is that before you started the program, you actually were already working with your clients and dealing with the unique needs of senior clients. Not by any means that Parkinson's only affects senior population, because it doesn't, unlike some people might think. I think, there's people like Michael J. Fox that have changed that perception a little bit, but still we sometimes think of that as like an older person.
Yep. Exactly.
So you because you were already dealing with special populations, do you feel like that helped you out with the program?
I think it definitely did. I had some of my first clients were post-trauma, so car accidents. And one of my clients actually has similar symptoms to people with Parkinson's because he got hit on the left side. So his left side is strongly affected. Where Parkinson's the same thing. Usually one side of the body is affected, a lot weaker, a lot harder to control. And then working with just baby boomers because they have, typical herniated discs, knee replacements, hip replacements, shoulder problems, back problems. So stuff like that. So that kind of helped me just to see those things in my clients, and then kind of build on that and learn and get an idea of how to work with those people.
That's great. And I love that you just mentioned a couple of those different things, because I think the old school thought process was, if you have a herniated disc, you have to go to the doctor and you have to get it. Or, if you have disc degeneration, that's like a horrible thing and, you're just going to be in pain. Now we know motion is lotion, right? So
exactly.
Encouraging movement helps us get out of chronic pain, and encouraging movement helps us to kind of recover. A lot of times, sometimes surgery is inevitable and important. So I don't say that at all. But, sometimes we can work through that, working with a personal trainer versus ending up going through surgery. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. And one of the important things, so we'll flip over and talk more about the boxing piece, but in terms of Parkinson's on its own, one of the really great things that I was reading about, and I'm going to botch it all because I have studies in front of me and I'm not reading it, but it was about neurodynamics and how that is more important. So we know that once there are pieces of the brain cells disappear before you're even diagnosed. So in the old school, we thought, oh, well, those are dead, those are gone. It's just, you're just going to continually degenerate. But now we know that the brain is such a wonderful thing. So parts of your brain, if they are trained and if you are getting that exercise piece, will actually take the place of what the role of others. Am I on the right track from what I've been?
Yeah. So you're kind of on the right track. So the exercise helps Parkinson's. So Parkinson's affects dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain, and it helps with starting movement and other movement processes. So that kind of, in people with Parkinson's, it depletes and it really decreases. So exercise actually creates dopamine. So that's why it's such a good remedy for people with Parkinson's. So some things like the cognitive issues and memory, once those cells are dead, I'm pretty sure I've read that they're gone, especially because dementia is the later symptom of Parkinson's. Memory and the cognitive stuff is kind of hard to get back, but the symptom part, where the other symptoms with the tremors and stuff, people in my class have actually had a reduction of symptoms to go along with the slower progression of the disease.
And then, okay, so let's talk a little bit about that now, because what you're doing is you're using boxing as the means of exercise. In a couple of the studies that I looked at, it looks like, it's just kind of a shame because, you would think walking is better than doing nothing and is better than doing walking. But it turns out that from some of them, I guess there were like a couple of treadmill studies that they had done, and it's that heightened physical activity has the results. So I would think that boxing actually is a great way to get to that heightened state.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. So the boxing, so boxing is really intense. So if you ever seen a boxing workout, it is, there's loud music and, you're punching things, a lot of energy going on in the class. The forced intense exercise is what's shown to really help with the symptoms of Parkinson's. And the great thing about the class is a group class. Everyone kind of pushes themselves, pushes themselves and pushes others at the same time. Boxing's really, really good because they have a lot of aggression. They have this disease that's incurable, deal with it every day. So boxing is a great way to get that forced intense exercise in a way that's, they're letting out their aggression. So it's kind of therapeutic at the same time.
Yeah.
Instead of just running on a treadmill as fast as you can, it won't have a similar effect.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to take a short break and we'll be back in a moment with more from Alec and Rocksteady Boxing Nova. But what I wanted to let everybody know about is an awesome event that they have coming up. Pints for Parkinson's is going to take place on Saturday, April 27th, and that's going to be at the Tyson's Beer Garden. Looks like it's going to be a really fun event. You're going to be able to support family and friends, grab a beer, and help fight back against Parkinson's disease. All donations and a percentage of sales will be given to the local nonprofit Parkinson's Social Network, who is committed to bringing together the Parkinson's community of Northern Virginia to inform, inspire, and unify those living with Parkinson's. You can go online to donate at gofundme.com/Pints for Parkinson's 2019. And you can also feel free to register for the event, and you can do so through their Facebook page, Pints for Parkinson's. I will have that in the show notes as well. And now back to our conversation with Alec. And then let's talk about some of the studies that have shown that, because one of the things that frustrates me as a massage therapist is there are so few quality studies that are done.
Yeah.
We have like in massage, we have like one or two case studies that were done well. And the other studies that were done, they're just either not of high quality, or they're out of publications, or out of places where people had other interests. And so we can't always take verbatim what is said in the study. So from a massage perspective, we know that with Parkinson's, we can definitely say that there's stress and anxiety reduction, right? Anxiety is kind of heightened in those that have Parkinson's, so we can definitely speak to that. It may have additional benefits, including temporary reduction of rigidity, positive effects of tremors, but to be honest with you, the science is unclear. So anecdotally, I may see things, but when we look at the research itself, and it just bugs me when we see like these studies that aren't done so well, and then it's like right at the bottom, like, but more research is needed. And I'm like, yes, so do the research.
Yes, so do it. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if you have similar frustrations, or what's the take on Parkinson's when it comes to either exercise or when it comes to boxing and the validity of those.
Gotcha. Yeah, so for actually a long time, researchers out there thought exercise was bad for Parkinson's, where recently it's shown to be the most effective thing along with medications. So the combination of the medication exercise is shown to have drastic effects on dealing with the Parkinson's. Exercise in general is really, really good. There's so many studies out there about just exercise in general. There's a few studies about the boxing and Parkinson's. So the University of Indianapolis. So the main Rocksteady headquarters is in Indianapolis. So they actually teamed up with the university and they did some research, had some of the boxers be participants, and they showed that they had more reduction of symptoms, decrease in symptoms, better stride length, less stiffness compared to people in other exercise programs. And I think in my just personal training perspective, it's because boxing combines so many different aspects of different exercises into one exercise routine. So in boxing, you have footwork, balance, hand-eye coordination, reaction time, focus, and boxing, certain numbers equal certain punches. So you have to think and move at the same time. So it works the cognitive aspect. It also creates this environment, because a lot of people who come to my class, they've never met anyone else with Parkinson's. They kind of come to me and they're like, hey, I've had Parkinson's for so and so years, or I just got diagnosed. And I always ask them, have you met anyone else with Parkinson's? And most of the time, like 90% of the time, they say no. And then they come into this class where there's 20 people just like them who know what they're going through. So it kind of decreases stress in that sense, so they don't really have to worry about, their self-consciousness of their tremor or their soft voice or anything like that. Creating that environment to go along with the exercise benefits of all those different aspects that boxing provides, I think is just why it works so well compared to just other methods of exercise.
Yeah. And one of the things too is, I was talking before about like stress and anxiety reduction. And I think that because you how long are your classes? An hour?
So an hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15.
Yeah.
So, how wonderful is it for any of us to have an hour and 15 minutes where we are just focused on the task at hand and the goal on hand, and everything else that's constantly going on in our mind has to be pushed aside so we can concentrate on this.
Exactly.
And I wonder if that plays a big role as well.
Yeah, I think it definitely does, because they come into this environment that they just feel comfortable in. And actually one of the hardest things that I have about my class is to get them to stop talking because they're so social. So for them, so that's the amazing part.
Yeah, because the people that I know in my life that are affected with Parkinson's, it surprises me, but you're right, there isn't a community. There are support groups and things like that, but because these are driven people that